And again this night he invades her dreams. Nearly a week now. She knows not what it means. A new town, a new house, a new life. A life on her own. But she would get used to it soon. It would feel like home. She feared sleep. She feared him. She knew not why. Only she did fear. Perhaps it was his hypnotic eyes. The deepest brown, but filled with such torment. She could see it. She could feel the pain emit. Hair the color of a raven's wings hanging loosely amid his back. A silver sword held tight, poised for defending attack. He was tall, perhaps 6'3", a little less, maybe a little more. Eyes searching, always stopping as they reached the door. Never once were words spoken between the two. It was as if he didn't know she was there, or what to do. He could not be real, only a phantom from her mind, conjured by her loneliness she thought she had left behind. She tossed and turned, blankets twisted sheet hanging loose, unnoticed by him, for still only his eyes moved. Hiding in the farthest regions of her mind, she peeked through. Sweat glistened upon her body as she searched for clues. What if it was help he needed? But what help was she? Perhaps the attic held secrets. Maybe it could provide the key. She gritted her teeth and shut her eyes tighter against his pain. Sharp and steel sword streaking through her brain. A sleeping daze, she rose slowly from her wrinkled bed. Slow steps, no control, as she walked the path of the undead. No, wait! She was not dead. He could not take her again. But try as she may, there was no strength to fight this man. So her walk continued through the lost pages of time. Her basement had become a dungeon of prisoners. There was no sign. But the blood, long since dried, but the stench lingered on. Echoing in the distance, a heart rich and grown. No one was there. How could it really be so? She did not want to walk it again, but his eyes made her go. Looking, she saw him held fast in a small cell. Open cuts oozed blood, a nightmare from hell. A serrated gash split his head, his blood-soaked skull in view. A jagged scar upon his cheekbone and tissue showing through. His tortured body, though not dead, was almost lifeless, and his eyes dazed, color untold, remained sightless. The groan lingered, as it had in each dream. Why then did he bring her? For it was a repeated scene. Eerie. So eerie, this same dream each night. Soon she would awaken to dawn's first light. This she knew, for it was always the same. Her fear, her anger, his nightly game. She thought she had found peace at last. But no, her dreams had led her to the past. A constant ring. She shook herself. It was the alarm clock. She groaned aloud, reaching for the cutoff to make it stop. Her arms stretched wide. She so much wanted to sleep in. Another dreary day, she thought, hearing the rain bombarding the tin. Well, the bills don't get paid if no work is done, and she rested her feet upon the floor. She squinted her eyes. Something I was supposed to be searching for. Oh well, it would come to me. A cup of coffee to start the day. Once she awoke to the light of day, her dream would always fade. Once in her car, she turned the key. Darn! She cursed it wouldn't start. She raised the hood. Her motor was torn apart. The battery was gone. All the wiring hung loose. Oh, man! She'd be late now. What was she to do? She ran back into the house, rain dripping from her, soaking the floor. Startled, she jumped, for upstairs she heard the sound of a slamming door. Terror struck her soul. No one should be here, for she lived all alone. The bedroom window was open. It had to be the wind, and she reached for the phone. Nothing left to do but call in to work. Let them know she would be late. Perhaps she would stay out altogether. It was already 8:15. No dial tone, no static, no nothing. Perhaps it was the heavy rain. She hung it up. wiggled the cord, and tried it once again. Still nothing. Until the rain slacked, there was nothing to be done. Well, she could get out of her wet clothes. Going into the bathroom, she searched for a towel, but there was none. Strange, she thought. Should be towels in both bathrooms, upstairs and down. Something weird going on, and her face marred with a frown. A deafening scream shattered the early morning peace, and her body shook. She should call someone. Darn, no phone. So long she was afraid to look. A shattering of glass caught her attention, and a woman's cry for help. Oh, she had to get out of here, but the door would not open. Oh, God, footfalls on the step. She twisted and turned the doorknob, but it would not release its tight hold. Stuck in this house with no one knew what, and she shivered from fright as well as her wet clothes. Over the house she ran, trying both windows and doors, while upstairs a battle raged. So still she stood as she watched her house begin to change. She was floating through the air, so fast her head began to spin. Her golden hair slapped her face mightily from the force of the winds. She had no control to guide where this terrifying path led. Faster and faster and faster she spun till all thoughts fled. Her eyes held tight against the twisting, turning scenery. But then the power of her ride took her will to see. Hours and hours passed before her journey was complete, and she landed none too gently on her feet. She swayed this way and that, trying to recapture some stability. Many voices echoed through her brain as she escaped reality. She opened her eyes with a moment's hesitation, and a spine-chilling scream escaped as she viewed her destination. In a corner was an oak dresser with broken glass, reeking of gin, the liquid pooling upon the top, then trickling over the end. Shards of glass upon the floor from a broken vase. Upon the bed lay a woman, blood covering her whole face. Slashes in between her eyes, her right cheek cut to the bone, and over from her bloody lips came an agonizing moan. She tried so hard to move her right hand. Almost. Right arm, but it hung limply. She slowly turned her head, and she had no eyes, the sockets empty. Her right leg was severed from her body, and her heart lay bare. God, help me leave this nightmare. I have to get out of there. The moan continued over and over, but until he let her go, she could not go. As she began to shiver, her skin pale as death's cold. Tears flowed. She covered her face with her hands, and she fell to her knees. What do you want from me? Tell me, please. A lone tear escaped his eyes, and he shook his head. His eyes disappeared, met with the eerie quietness. She knew the woman was dead. Turning over in bed, she felt the hot sun shining through the window. Oh, darn, she must have hit the snooze. 10 after 10, the clock showed. No time for a shower. She brushed her teeth in her hair and rushed for her car. It was a good thing she didn't have to go too far. The air-conditioned building felt good after the heat from outside. Okay, what excuse could she give for being late? Well, it would have to be a good lie. Her boss hated the old sleeping through the alarm excuse. It didn't matter if he did. Thomas Masters met her at the elevator. Hey, where you been, kid? They'd been best friends since they had met 2 years past. In fact, he'd helped her land this job so fast. He'd been here for about 6 years, never missed a day. Oh, shoot, Thomas, I had a nightmare and I slept late. That doesn't work with me, and sure as heck don't work with the boss. He's ready to fire you, but then, that's your loss. Oh, Thomas, really. He might write me up, but I don't think he'll fire me. Kara, you've been out 3 days and never even called in. Just wait and see. But Thomas, I haven't been out at all. I'm only 2 hours late. She gasped in shock as she noticed a calendar on Tammy's desk with the date. She'd lost 2 days somewhere along the line. Darn! What had happened to those 2 days from her life? Well, Thomas was right. She got fired. Did not even know why. After arriving home, she lay on her bed and began to cry. Was she going insane? What's the matter with her? Oh, God, the last 2 days were such a blur. Not again. No, please, no. She no longer cried, but could still hear a soft cry. But no, they weren't her tears, as she knew, and from her emerged a ragged sigh. Why did this have to happen to her? She should run now before he came. Just escape from this house before she became completely insane. She rose from her bed, her mind made. She was leaving this place now. There was no time to pack. Nothing was worth her sanity. She would get by somehow. Taking the steps two at a time. Escape, 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 was all she could think. Nothing could stop her tormented cry as the floor turned to blood and she began to sink. The more she thrashed about, the farther underneath she was dragged. It seized her tightly, choking, suffocating, and inhaling the rotted blood. Her mouth and nostrils filled with crimson liquid, and each time it took her breath. She was drowning, and she could no longer fight her impending death. There he be, me laddies! Get him! Get him! We cannot let him escape! Blood everywhere, at least 10 men, swords drawn, a battle cry raged. She was in the midst of a small village, a thick fog easing in from the sea. They were dashing towards her. She could reach out to touch them, but they were only spirits. She did not see the small rowboat being propelled out to sea, but she could hear it. She spun like a top, and the scenery began to change. A small hut. The oak dresser was built in. Oh, God, no, please, no. But she knew. It was time to relive it all over again. Lying on the bed just as before, the blood, the sightless eye sockets, the rancid smell. I want to wake up. Please let me wake. I can no longer take this life in hell. A soft whisper from a time so long ago surrounded her, drawing her near. A man's voice, passionate in his plea, a heavy accent spoken in her ear. His words continuous, as if he was really trying to make her believe. I'm a lady, and to help me this locality you shall never leave. You're much needed here, though my words you do not take note of. I need you to put to rest the soul of myself and my lady love. I beseech you. His voice echoed from a distant time, slowly fading. Please help me. You are the only one that can bring our souls peace. She really thought about seeing the shrink concerning these nightmares. Her reality had merged with bloody phantoms drawing her into their lairs, moving away from her childhood home, thinking them at an end. But no, they had resurfaced here, more vivid in the messages they sent. Was she really confined to the inside of a house, not able to leave? Even as she turned the knob on the door, she knew she hadn't been deceived. How could this be real? No escape. No way out. No, don't let me panic now. If I do, he will come again. He knows when I fear. Yes, he knows. Somehow. So what now does he have in store to play his tricks with my mind? I have the key, he says, but it's something I have to find. And just who does he think he is anyway, scaring the heck out of me? Calm down, she told herself, counted to 10, trying to breathe. But too late. He knew. He had felt her anger, the rage inside, the pain. Yes, he had felt them, for wasn't he feeling the same? Though he was no longer among the living, he was destined to remain in his cell. Only I saw all, knew all. He had brought her down several times, brought her to hell. Forever and ever and ever, fate had placed him in the world below, holding him so tightly, refusing to release his soul. And his lady love? What of her? An eternity of lying there, sightless, heartless. Am I really being selfish? No, I really don't think I'm being selfish. Darn, why would she not go to the attic? A week past he had given the clue. And still she would not go. She had not taken the hint. Oh, what a fool. She could have made it easier on herself. But now it will be done the hard way. Well, my lady, prepare yourself. Things might get rough, for Storm O'Malley has come to play. She felt his eyes upon her. He had heard her words. He had felt her rage, and this she knew. And in return, he took her from her world and placed her in his, and she knew not what to do. He thrived on her terror. Bloodlust seemed to drive him on. Oh, God, pull me back, please. But too late. She realized she was alone. It was cold here, so very cold. A dampness surrounded, streaming from the cavern walls. Rubbing arms frantically against the chill, she heard a thunderous explosion, and rocks began to fall. Huge boulders rolling the path she had taken. Nearer they came, and she ran and ran and ran, on and on and on, finally finding a place to jump from the path. But she did not land. Instead, she descended into a world unknown, spinning round and round. She could hear screams, so many louder and louder, echoing from the ground. Yes, thank you, she silently whispered, for she knew land was close. But as she hit, she decided this should not have been a path she chose. Undead. A shuffling walk as they dragged their feet across the sands of time, walking, forever old, searching for any substances they could find. They preyed on each other, for until now there was no human flesh here. Hundreds of sightless eyes turned towards her, their walk similar as they drew near. She could hear their screams again, screams filled with terror, screams filled with pain. They were her own as she fought skeletal fingers. Their agonizing moans filled her brain. But why? Usually in her dreams, though terrifying, she never really got hurt. A splint of bone left a big gash on her leg. Finally overpowering her, she realized it was real. She was being torn apart. And she fought. The only girl amongst 5 brothers, she had been taught well. But what good would her knowledge be against these occupants of hell? Ouch! She screamed as her hair was pulled so hard she felt her scalp pop. Blood oozed from a deep gash upon her neck as well as the rest of her flesh, and they stopped. As before, they walked their shuffling walk across the sands of time. Nothing misplaced, nothing different, similar steps, walking blind. But her blood was real. She had lost so much, too much. She fought it. She really did. But she could not hang on. A feather? No, it was his light touch. She was floating, silken wings towards the starlit sky, seeing, but then perhaps only an illusion, as she rode with the fireflies. Wings of gold shadowed through body so transparent, even a slight touch to the wings could tear it. But should they feel harm from anyone in this place? No, it was so peaceful here, so beautiful, so safe. Amazing, the brightest colors of the rainbow's hue. The clouds so translucent she floated on through, and floated, releasing her mind of all thoughts. Lying somewhere in between a daze and a peaceful sleep, she saw. Enveloped in clouds, no sound, quiet, so quiet, relaxing in her temporary respite. Was it hours or only minutes in the passage of time? Before she felt his pain run through. Ah! She screamed, feeling the jagged-edged knife. His eyes pulled her through the clouds' aimless path, twisting and turning, spinning lightning fast. The halt was abrupt, and she felt herself plummeting towards the ground. Head first, and her terror spread. Try as she might, she could not turn around. So fast her heart beat, the veins could not keep up with blood's flow, and a savage wind captured her inside, holding tight from its blow. She could not scream. In fact, her very breath came in gasps, neither unaware nor caring any more how quickly time had elapsed. Round and round and round like a child spinning top, praying over and over that her newest nightmare would stop. And it did. Straight up in mid-air, her harrowing journey ceased, taking several breaths of air and enjoying the release. Looking upon a cloud-blood-covered trail, he would be at the end. This she knew. She felt his pain, and yes, she could tell. His eyes pulled her across the void, reaching his final destination, sitting in his cell, hands covering his face, and she felt this weird sensation. Something was not quite right. He looked the same as the first time. Almost. What was it? The feeling was such a puzzle. This was not her ghost. Her mind was churning, so many thoughts traveling so many different directions. It wasn't any one thing. She could not as yet name it as any one perfect imperfection. But no, there was something amiss here. For the moment, it was elusive. Pain emitted from his eyes, but yet he was not abusive. Just sat there, face buried deeper in his hands than before. This way and that, she cocked her head, trying to see more. What is it? What is it? Darn it, it's going to drive me crazy if I can't figure it out. Then hysterical laughter escaped her lips. I'm already crazy without a doubt. Waking up, She turned her head to check the time on the clock. Oh, heck. There was no need of that, for in her world, time had stopped. Propping her arms behind her head, she stared at the ceiling. And she did not like these thoughts she was thinking, nor this vague feeling. But like as not, it was something she was compelled to do. Still he pulled her, but now she felt it too. Every nightmare, every thought, every word would have to be repeated, for somewhere there was a clue in which her nightmares could be defeated. Right here is where it all started. Right here is where it would end. But not yet. First she had business to tend. Something vaguely familiar, something about the attic. Slowly walking up the rickety steps and nearing the door, she panicked. Her fear of enclosed places was no big secret, but this was so much more. What was she to find lurking behind the attic's trapdoor? Really? She had no choice but to open it. It was time. She could think. She could feel. She hurt. She was his mind. It wasn't hard to find what she searched for, because she knew. Yes, she knew. All her past trips had held the clues. Between the pages of a book, his soul had been trapped, forever holding him with no way out. And that is why he sent her in search for the book. Okay, there was so much in here, so where she first looked. A huge box stuck back in the corner beckoned her to it. It was so big she could climb inside, but that wasn't what was meant. Not inside the box, no. It was hid behind inside the wall, not to be found till she was called. A hammer lay on the floor. The head rusted, and the handle was split. But it didn't matter. She knew she had to use it. She used the claw to pull at the rotted boards, ripping them. Splinters jabbed at her hands, but she didn't realize because she was him. Digging around inside the wall, she found it at last. The end of this mystery, the key to the past. So yellow with age, how had it kept from falling apart? Well, that was unimportant now. She sat on a crate, trying to think which page to start. Surely the whole thing, page by page, didn't need to be read. For in truth, only since he had been dead. The wind whipped, and the pages swiftly turned on her own. Then the eerie sound of death's song. Chills racked her body from the cold inside, and the smell of fresh dug dirt. Oh my God, he had been buried alive. Why? He could not scream. His breath had all but disappeared, and the first time in his life he knew real fear. This time for him, there was no escape, but too late now to let them know their mistake. The wrong one, he thought. You have the wrong one. Oh, mother, mother, he cried. Was not I but your other son? Was not I but your other son? He was the highwayman, responsible for all those misdeeds. The one that led the raid on my lady love's retreat. The one that split my skull and laid me to rest in the cell. But I'm not dead, so why bury me alive in hell? Or am I dead? Yet really I must be. Only my soul lives until the truth is known. It will not be free. My twin, my own brother, how could he do this thing? I, the good, he, the evil, framing me for his deadly deeds. So long an eternity wandering about, easing my soul. And my lady love, it wasn't me. But this she must know. Ay, but we look so like, and our speech the same. She must know. Has to know it's all his evil game. But no, surely she knew I wasn't capable. I could never stand her agony. I should have been there to protect her, but instead I was away. Anna, my lady love, please forgive me for failing you. We must be patient, for I know not what else to do. I have called her. She will release our souls to peace. In our new afterlife we will find release. Shaking her head, she returned to normal, discovering she had seen through his eyes. No pages in the book had been turned. It remained on the day he had lived and died. 2 sons, twin boys, born out of wedlock over 100 years. Looking over the family tree, she could not stop her tears. Her great-great-grandmother was listed, and her grandmother too. Perhaps that's why he called her, too. She was part of his roots. Taking the book downstairs with her, she heard a knock upon the door. It opened with these, "Darn girl, where you been? It's 4:45. Hello, Thomas. Just finishing up my newest story. Oh, no, I was supposed to meet you. I'm so sorry. It's okay. I know how you are when you start to write. But really, if we're going to the lake, let's go while there's still light. Just a minute. Let me grab my things. I'll be right back. She disappeared down the hallway, and Thomas sat in a chair where a pile of papers was stacked. Invaded dreams? Wonder what kind of story this would be. He picked up the first page and started to read. She appeared after he read the first chapter. Excellent imagination, followed by his laughter. As they walked out the door, she looked back. Time for a little reality. Her tormentor and ladylove smiled, but only she could see. Cynthia Clark.